Wow, I still feel it. Oh. Yeah. That's how you get a welcome here in Vegas, I guess, right? No, I do want to thank you all for inviting me out. I'm glad that I could kind of step up and get out here. I don't know if you all have listened to the Higher Ed AV podcast, but we have a lot of people in this room who have already been guests on it. So I wanted to step in, and I delivered a keynote last month to the Midwest AV Summit, and I just posted last week the audio from that keynote. And then, of course, Tuesday or whatever, I get an email saying, can you come out here? And I can't even reuse the same keynote because I just posted it. So we're going to kind of make some things up. And what I want to talk about today is just some lessons that I have learned from doing this podcast. We just dropped episode 35, and by we, I guess I mean me and myself and I, on Tuesday, episode 35. And so I've kind of learned a lot over the since September 12th when episode 1 dropped, and I thought I would share a little bit of because of my podcast, some lessons learned, and then also some predictions. But of course, the first thing that I noticed was what am I going to talk about here is the Northwest Managers of Educational Technology Conference, right? And will you come out to Vegas? So the first thing we have to understand, all right, that's Northwest, Southwest, all right? Whatever floats your boat. No, I'm actually really happy to be here. It made it really easy to come out. So a little bit about me, which I'm going to state here and set up my story, which puts into perspective of what I do at CBU. So I've only been in higher ed actually for 3 years. Actually, this summer will be 3 years. Before that, I spent the last 2 decades in the business development side of the entertainment industry. So I look at things slightly different, much more from a bean counter role, even though I have the AV background. And of course, in college, I originally went for recording engineering, ended up with a philosophy degree. Of course, what do you do with a degree in philosophy? You go in the entertainment industry. I mean, what else are you going to do, right? But long time coming, I ended up getting my PhD in the very useful AV skill of theology. And that's actually why I wear jeans now. I used to dress up for work. And then I realized that if I didn't start dressing like I was homeless, no one would believe I had a PhD. So there we go. I started wearing jeans. So I've worked in all aspects of the entertainment industry. And what had happened, and the reason my job was created, was because of what happened at CBU. So we were founded in 1950 as a private Christian university in the great metropolis of Riverside, California. And what had happened, if you notice, the fourth thing down there is our enrollment. In 2011, we had 4,000 students. In this fall, 2018, we had 10,486. That's 1,000 a year over year growth. You realize even before that 2011, give or take 2007, 2008, it took from 1950 to 2007-8 to go to 1,000. So it's really been a lot of growth really fast. It's a good problem to have, obviously, but it did create a lot of problems for the university. Because we obviously started as a kind of a liberal arts college, let's say, but now we have all the professional degrees, online MBA, 6 doctoral degrees. I think this always changes. I keep getting updated of more and more programs we're having. And then this last year, we joined Division I athletics. So here's a few things about CBU that we're very proud of. So I've got the first one, then parentheses, is our national ranking. The first one is our California ranking. Number one, best college campus. If you could ever get out to CBU, it is one of the most beautiful campuses you'll ever see. Every building is made to look like a mission, basically. So you have this big, giant mission. So it's gorgeous. Our dorms, our food rocks. No kidding. We bring people to campus, and like we literally take them to the cafeteria to eat. Everyone wants to get off and go and have your vendors splurge in nice places. No, we literally bring them to our cafeteria because it's fantastic food. Best Christian college, student life. These are all things that we get ranked on. But notice out of the whole list, only one of them is academic, our online MBA program. So that put us in a very interesting predicament because we've built a lot of the, if you build it, they will come. But now we have to start to work on our teaching and learning and bring in faculty to be able to bring the level up, which was really kind of the reason now for the creation of my department. So if we look at, I started in the summer of 2016, and this is what we've done now in the last 3 years. So we opened our health sciences campus, our event center, again moving into D1 athletics, 5,050 seat event center, which is basically basketball arena, with also our chapels are run out of there. We moved all of our digital signage to an integrated solution across campus, so where we can stream all of the chapels and stuff to any of our lobbies. Our College of Engineering, which is pictured there. When we got a donor for this building, the donor said, I will give you the money, however, you have to build the best facility on the West Coast. If you get a chance to get out to the LA area, you've got to come see this building. It is gorgeous. It is, our engineering building is on par with Caltech and Stanford, and it is fantastic. We redid all of our College of Nursing, and then we had a campus standard that we brought up to, so actually this summer, we're at the 90%. We got a couple more classrooms we'll finish up this summer. But basically, what had happened was, because there was no one in this role overseeing all the growth, it was whatever the integrator wanted to do that was hired, they got to do what they wanted to do. So literally 3 lecture halls in our main building. First room, AMX system. Next room, Crestron system. Next room, Extron system. All with buttons falling off. All legacy things. And you want to talk about frustrated faculty. So that was part of our overall classroom upgrade, all the way across campus, a few hundred classrooms. This is what's now happening, and current construction is going on. So this summer, we'll open up our Athletic Performance Center, which is a training facility. Now that we are in D1 athletics, we obviously have to train the athletes coming through. Redoing our rec center, kind of an integrated matrix system throughout the whole thing to be able to route. It's actually connected to the Athletic Performance Center. It's kind of cool. Parking structure, yay. People don't get excited for that, except for those of us on staff who have to park a quarter of a mile away from campus. Very happy about having that. Creating an outdoor social space with a lot of amphitheater, redoing our entrance of our university, virtual hybrid learning space. We're starting to do worship arts masters, so we're kind of working on how we want to create a virtual hybrid space. And then our new student housing. So those are all happening in this summer. We're also starting a commercial music degree and building a new recording studio in a couple of phases, hence what it says 2019 and 2020. So you can see what's happened all the way up to this summer in just 3 short years. But we're not done. So coming up in the next couple years now, we're working on our lecture capture stuff, which, by the way, when I'm doing a podcast, the greatest thing about doing a podcast is anything I want to know, I just bring a guest on and I ask them questions about it. It's the best research you can ever do. So, that's how you know what I'm working on campus, whatever my guest is. So we're doing the new library. The new library is the kind with no books. And then Welcome Center and a new classroom building coming up. That's our next 3 years. So it's a lot of growth and a lot of struggles that have happened. So that was why my position was created. But here's the interesting thing. I stepped into this role because I had the ability to oversee what was going on However, I didn't know anybody, right? I spent 20 years in the entertainment industry building connections, building relationships. To move into a brand new vertical where, it's like crickets. I seriously don't know anyone. I had some integrator and manufacturer relationships that I'd had in the past, but all of a sudden I didn't know, where are my colleagues? Who are my colleagues? So I thought, well, if I start a podcast, not that I have anything to say, I will just invite one person on a week, and in a year I'll know 50 people, right? And so that was kind of the plan. So about I guess I kind of skipped this, but about our department. So it's myself and Randy sitting right over there in the beard in the middle table. We are the full-time staff, and then we have 13 current student workers, 4 leads that can work up to 28 hours a week. We report to the VP of Technology. We call 600, I call them AV spaces, because of the new, put a screen in a collaboration area in a hallway and lobby. We're doing a lot of those things. And I always say that if it falls under us, if it can be defined as AV, we get it. Our goal in life is to take over the world on our department, and that's what we're doing, just to have everything integrated under us. So to pull this off, we had a vision statement and had to create a vision statement. And again, when I say we, it was me, because is what I had to do the very first year was a lot of research and development of what our standards was going to be. So really, we wanted to follow along our 4 core principles, and that's academically prepared, biblically rooted, Christian university, globally minded, and equipped to serve. So everything had to fill up into those principles. And to do that, we had the challenge of making sure that every space wasn't just brought up to technological standards, but also had the ability to connect people. Because that's one thing that I had always recognized working in the entertainment industry, and we say this in higher ed, that we want butts in seats as far as enrollment. In the entertainment industry, if you're not selling records, if you're not having people tune in, if people aren't filling up the theaters, you're fired. So I've always looked at how you can create engagement. And that, again, is really then what created the podcast. I really thought it was going to be me talking to dead air. I had a few people I knew that I basically said, you're going to be the first 5 episodes. Bear with me on this. We're going to have, just do this for me and we'll see what happens. That's how many listens I've had since September 12th up to Tuesday. Is that crazy or what? I mean, it's a little, I think it averages to about 2,200 listens an episode. Finally just got our first sponsor, which is crazy, though other manufacturers had reached out. I want to be able to knock anybody, so I've kind of turned some down, but we got a sponsor. Like, people want to pay me to do this thing now. That's crazy. But here's the thing. That number isn't just about, okay, people have listened to a podcast. It's us as a community coming together and sharing knowledge, which is really what I've wanted to do. Selfishly, I want to learn things, but I know that if I have the questions, so do other people, right? And so that was the whole point of it. So here are the top 5 episodes that I've had. Number 1, Chris Netto and Mark Coxon, AV Tweeps, came on and interviewed myself and our colleague at Vanderbilt, and that was in order to, because we've created, which I'll tell a little bit more, an organization to be able to let us have a little bit more influence in the industry, but I'll get to that. If you notice, episode 2, you're going to get to see it at 2:30 today with the Alexa voice control proof of concept. So I love the fact that that's our number 2 episode. It was number 1 for a while until, the power of Chris and Mark, across social media. So that kind of knocked that down. Another thing I'm really proud of is number 4. This is my 2 student workers who graduated. And it's pretty awesome to just see the family and community that was built through them. One of my philosophies in our department was that my job as a leader is not to do the work, but to create a space and give them all the resources they need to be successful. So it was really them who built the department. It was, come to me and tell me what you want, what do you need, and I'm going to go to battle for you. And I'm going to fight and make sure we get it. So we started as a random desk in the back of a workshop area, and then ended up now with a beautiful new suite in the basement. It's actually great because no one bothers us. And a gorgeous, gorgeous control suite now that is all because of the work they have done. So I invited, I do, if you want to hear an episode and you haven't, go to episode 4 and listen to Melissa and Lexi talk about what their point of view as a student worker and servicing tickets. Those two people have changed my life and in a huge way, and it was awesome for them to share. So some lessons I've learned, these are very random. I don't have my laptop's over there too, so my notes and kind of what I want to talk about are over there. So I'm going to just kind of go through. I thought some things that I've learned over the past 6 months or 5 months, whatever it's been. First, content matters. And this is one thing that I noticed in episode 5. Dean, who was at West Point, he's no longer at West Point, said something about when our projectors go down and the way he looks at it. Because it's very easy for us, right, to have something go down and we find a workaround and we think, okay, we'll get to it, or we'll put a RMA in, we'll get this room back up, or we'll find a workaround that'll work for now. But he said, here's why it bothers me when a projector goes down. Because I have a cadet, again, not a student, a cadet, serving in the United States military. That piece of information may save lives. And if they're not getting it, that weighs heavy on him because he knows those soldiers are going out to protect us and do great things. So when the AV doesn't work and the content can't be showed, it actually has, a tangible result. So that to me was life-changing when he said that, because we all say it, right? We all know that we want the rooms up and working, but maybe we take for granted the piece of information that's actually being passed. I know I do. But that student, not just because, they pay tuition or whatever, and therefore they deserve it, but we know that single piece of information was intended to be given for a specific purpose, not always to save lives, but what if it's a nursing department, right? What if it's your aviation department, which we have, and they can't teach? There are tangible impacts that happen from that. So with that, I kind of drew this conclusion that the choices we make become the identity of who we are, right? Because we also can't take for granted the choices when we have our projectors, our microphones, how we set up our classrooms, because they become our identity. We all know, and this is the one thing that had happened when I came on staff, I decided to do an audit of everything, of all of the trouble tickets that came through, and I recognized that people were not happy with the classrooms at all. It was the one thing that people loved everything about the university, except they said all of our stuff is crap and it sucks, and the professors were unhappy. And I thought, that's now the reputation. And when you start seeing it, all of our students, as you know, they have meme accounts throughout your university of all the miscellaneous stuff that goes on, and this stuff appears. And it was my goal to make sure they could never say that again. So I wanted now to have the identity to be listed on the things that people love about the university, to be the classroom experience. Lead me to second point, the struggle. I know when I did this, again, I didn't really have any experience in the classroom sector. I don't think I probably used an Extron system or a Crestron system just because I walked into a room. But I wasn't certified on them. I never really had to tear one apart because I was always focused on the business side. But I found throughout the podcast that we all struggle with these exact same things. Now, our magnitude is different if you're a small university with 30 or 40 classrooms, or you're a major institution with, hundreds of classrooms. But we all seem to be going through the same thing. And that was one thing I noticed is I'd invite people on for me to talk about, the things I want to learn. Well, it's funny because I start getting feedback and retweets and from the most random people and places saying this is exactly what I needed to know about. Because not everybody can get out to a conference. Not everybody has the budget to get out to, an Infocom or whatever, or even here. This is awesome. But we know there's a lot of community colleges that don't get budgets. So the fact that we know that everybody is struggling and this community is what's important. So if I could ever take one thing away, it's that we all need one another, right? Because it can feel very siloed, doesn't it, sometimes? That was the one thing I noticed, is I'm sitting there going, well, there's 3,500 institutions in the country. I mean, there's at least 3,500 of me, right? Plus their staff. But I don't know the dude at UC Riverside down the street. I don't know the dude or dudette at La Sierra, the other way down the street. So that was the whole idea, was starting to pull everyone together and recognizing our struggles and our commonalities, which is what's awesome to come to places like this and be able to share those things. This kind of goes with the other one, is when we come together and we make our decisions, we're actually, impacting the lives of one another and our industry as a whole. I know that the AV people have often a bad rap from our IT departments, or we're the AV guy, right? As if they have any idea what that means. So when we come together and we build each other up as a community, we also change the perception on campus, especially, I believe, as our institutions are now becoming, or our AV is becoming more IP-based and IT-based. The more we can collaborate and communicate, the more we're going to build ourselves up as not the dude that comes running in from the back closet pushing a TV on a cart, right, to save the day, but we actually become a voice in the room with the upper administration. Wrong button. Let's go that way. The next thing, and I learned this, this is funny because I pulled some stats that I'm going to get to here. I also serve on the AVIXA Diversity Council because, of course, being a 45-year-old white Christian male from Orange County, California, I'm the poster child of diversity. But in fact, I recognize that AV, especially with my student workers, and this goes back to that 4th episode, we have an opportunity to change futures with what we do. And I don't know how many people have student workers, but that's why I'm in this. I could be back in the entertainment industry doing very well, but the fact that I know that someone's life can be changed because of the skills that we can give them and the community that we can build. I'm really proud that I had one student worker just this week on Tuesday interview for an integrator to come to work as a project manager. I mean, how awesome is that? He came in 3 years ago as one of my initial knowing basically nothing. By the time he's going to graduate, he can build an entire rack himself. And that's fantastic to just see those opportunities. And so I always look that we can give these tangible skills that I think often lack in higher ed to people. And that was the one thing like the Diversity Council with AVIXA is very good at, is promoting that. So I tried looking at who my student worker demographic was. So I've had 20 student workers since I started, 13 male, 7 female. I'm basically straight down the middle. Here's the thing you have to understand about our institution. We are very high, if you look toward the bottom, if you take the 35, 8, and 5, we are mostly a white Christian university. So I want to buck that trend and try to give opportunities to people who maybe didn't get that opportunity before. And maybe we can actually impact lives in ways that we don't think about, and we don't look at our student workers as the people who, which they do, right? They call in sick for the most random reasons, or even worse, they don't call in and then tell us they were sick 3 days later and we wonder why they weren't there. But those are really small things to deal with when you know that you can start to give an added, life skill, an added trade, which wasn't really what they're paying for when they come to school to get whatever degree they are. So, so that I'm actually very proud of. Right now, we're going to all of our women keep. By the way, I don't know all this. Our women keep graduating. Our men don't graduate. So I got to keep hiring all these women. Like, my women are my rock stars, but now I'm going to be down to 2. So I need to get back up there. But in saying that, I also recognize I'm a hypocrite when it comes to my podcast. So I've only had 5 females. So ladies in the room, talk to me. I have to go all the way back to episode 14. Sarah from Mount St. Mary's out in Baltimore was the last female guest I had on. I don't know if I am, even kind of looking out in the room, does my podcast match the demographics of who's in our industry? If so, we're in trouble, and we should maybe find ways to change that. Yeah, that hit me. So, yeah, we'll be seeing a change in the next few episodes. Next point, CIOs are people too, all right? This is a great story. This is a because of my podcast story. I got an email yesterday saying that I have been nominated for the 40 under 40 CIOs in higher ed. There's only 2 problems with that. 1, I am not a CIO, and 2, I am 45 years old. I'm really glad they think this, fat bald guy can be under 40. However, yes, I did have to send the email. It's a weird email to write, by the way. You're like, thank you for the honor. However, I don't think I qualify. But the reason that happened is because I was actually invited, and I went this last week to attend a conference of CIOs. There were only a few tech people, AV people in the room. It was all CIOs from the major institutions, the Harvard and Stanfords and all of that stuff. So it was a really interesting place to be. It was a really interesting conversation to be pulled into. But what I recognized is a lot of times when we have our bosses and we're calling them Dr. this and Dr. that, and they sit in the ivory tower on the other side of campus. Oh, this is being recorded. I'll say anyway, they're clueless as all heck. Okay? Like, they really had no idea when I explained how much data a 4K 60 sends down their network. And I floored them. I'm like, you really don't understand what's about to happen to your entire campus in the next 3 to 5 years? Floored them. I let them be scared. I didn't talk about compression and things like that. I left it at the, what do you mean you don't have a 50 gig backbone to handle that? Huh? So we have opportunities to actually get in the room because they have no idea. They still see us as the guy that pushes a TV on a cart in the room with the VCR strapped to it, right? I learned that over those 2 days. And it was funny because I've been invited back to present the keynote at the next one. Because they recognized the information that I could give, they were clueless to. And now they're scared of how are we going to handle this. Wait, do I have the right people? And here's the thing I said. You don't need to go hire anyone. I guarantee you, you've got a guy sitting or a gal sitting in a basement who already knows all this. You just need to make that connection. Maybe, open the door to them. Let's knock the placard off and actually sit down and have coffee and have a conversation. And those people are already there, and it's all you in the room. And that is, it was really eye-opening, because you think, like, I don't know if any of you come from the IT world, but, oh, heck, I don't know anything about that stuff, all right? Nor do I want to. But it's interesting. They feel the exact same thing about the way we do. I understand signal flow makes sense to me. Route stuff, I don't know how it gets from here over there. But if I roll a long snake across the floor, I know how it gets there. It's old school there. So, the next thing, relationships. I think, I can't see it, but I think I have a quote. I believe, hold on, yep, okay, good. Yeah, so, our relationships. This is, if I could take one thing about my job and knock it off the list of things I do, I'd get rid of all the AV. Sure, make my life easier, wouldn't it? But here's why, because it's everything we do is about our relationships. And as a tech manager in higher ed, we have a very interesting relationship, right? Because we're both end users and we're integrators, right? And the show of the hands, how many people do most everything in-house? All right, integrators in the room, sorry to have just broken some bad news to you. Because we are integrators, right? By the way, always hire a PSNI integrator. But we have this interesting place that we sit in our institutions, and this is something that I love asking this question when I interview people of where do you sit? Are you in the library? Because I always say it seems to be the top three. You're either under IT, you're under academics, or you're under the libraries. Those are probably the main three. There might be others. But you realize in that we have this role that touches so many things. Obviously, I kind of split this in half. Everything at the relationships and above is at our campus. Everything at relationships and below is outside. And that's where it's coming to places like this and getting, and having the communication like I have on the podcast of really our external colleagues, all of us together, building that relationship with one another. Because I do believe, as I get to my predictions coming up, AV is going to be seen very different in 5 years. Because the first point I made, that content matters. We always said, again, I came from the live world, and anyone else who comes from the live world understands the importance of good audio. It can ruin everything. Bad audio is destroy. Right there, right? Well, that's going to happen now with all content. Because the new generation coming up, our kids that are on our phones are so video absorbed. They're so, I want this and I want it now, which isn't a bad thing. It's just changing the way people are going to see content. And your professors, when this generation dies off, is going to be replaced by professors who want to show YouTube, and they want to show Snapchat, and they want it now, and they want it quick, and they want it 4K 60 going down to 50 gig backbone. Keep letting the CIOs think that. It'll increase your budget. And so we need to start, we have a very integral part, and if we're going to continue to be a voice in the room, we can capture that. This was a hard lesson. So when I came on to CBU, and I told you I pulled an audit of all the tech requests that had come in. The beautiful thing is Randy, who works for me, was working at conference and events, kind of who was sort of overseeing the department. There was sort of an oversight department. And so he was nice enough to kind of feed me emails of quotes and things. I don't know if he should have, but he did. Hey, got him a great job. So now, I tracked every trouble ticket in every classroom and just kind of doing an audit. And I noticed there was one particular professor who called all the time, day after day after day. And of course, we were all thinking, right, oh, that's him, right? But here was the thing. Then he stopped calling. Dead stop. Never called again. So one of two things, or I thought, all right, did someone finally train him? Or did he leave the university? He didn't leave the university. I looked him up. So I emailed him and said, hey, can we go get coffee? I have some questions to ask, because it really was weird. How do you call so much and then stop? I seriously get goosebumps. That's what people thought of our department. He was just the one that was nice enough to tell me because I invited him to coffee. You know how he told everyone else? He just stopped calling. He didn't tell anyone. Funny thing is, Dr. Suzuki is my number one advocate right now. When he calls, and he still calls, there's some people who now, can be technically challenged. But he calls differently because he knows we're going to be there to help. And I make sure every student worker understands the importance of helping him. Because if we can make him an advocate for us, there is nothing we can't do at that university. I wrote that on my wall early on, and it's weird because I even said this a couple weeks ago in the other keynote. It's not up on my wall anymore. I need it to be, just kind of as a reminder. And since I'm recording this to release as a podcast, I should read it. It says, I just stopped calling because no one listens, and I know nothing will get done. Sometimes I don't think anyone really cares. Hey, okay. Next. Power. This is the beautiful thing about the podcast. I've only actually had 2, I guess technically 3 manufacturers come on. It's always been people. Where's Gina? Gina's here. She's probably hiding in the other room. She was one of them. And then Matt Silverman from Crestron. And then project managers from Audinate. And but what's interesting is how many, without giving away the details, products I have on my campus that nobody else. There's Gina. Episode number 12, 9. It's an early one. AV Rockstar right there. But here's the thing: is on our campus, I have products put in campus that nobody else has. All because of this. So many manufacturers call me all the time and say, hey, will you put this in? Will you do this? Will you test this? Will you be our proof of concept for this? Obviously, we have signed a lot of NDAs, so I cannot tell you what they all are. But it let me know something, that we have power. When I talk about something on the podcast, or if we go to the Alexa example, people reached out to me saying, well, what are you doing? I'm not doing it. Go talk to him. People want to know these things. Integrators want to know these things. Manufacturers want to know these things. And they recognized our buying power. Because I do have a saying that if I'm going to buy one of something, I'm going to buy 200 of something. I'm not going to have one room be one thing, one another. And that buying power means something. And so as a group, this is where we need to come together and actually have a voice in the things that happen. Right? The beauty of having products on my campus is the feedback that I can give. And actually, they listen. So a good story is part of the 5 people who were my first few episodes, we all met because a manufacturer flew us out to Osaka in order to look at their factory. This was like a little bit before. And I said, we all thought, great, they're flying us out, do the whole wine and dine thing. They're basically just trying to get lifetime customers, and this is it. Well, sure, there's some of that. But what was interesting is they showed us products that hadn't been out yet. And they said, will you be honest about it? Oh, we were brutally honest about them. Like, brutally honest. To the point where the guy who designed the product was almost in tears. It's like we like murdered his children when we told him how bad some of these products were. And what are they going to do? Send us home, right? But here's the funny thing. A few months later, email, hey Joe, our product designer from Japan is in LA. Can we stop by your campus? They made all the changes you said. They want to know what you think and what needs to be done next. You want to talk about a company earning some respect, huh? Not only was that awesome, it also let me know power we have, right? Because here's the thing, as manufacturers, I know there's a lot of manufacturers in the room. If you want to know what people really think and just sell your product beyond our vertical, trust us, this is a great one to develop it in. Because how crazy it that, an educational institution would be interested in research, be interested in development. Isn't this what we do? And so that is really the thing to take away is don't think that you're just an end user, right? We're influencers. And we have the power to influence. We don't have to wait for them to tell us what the next product is. We can go to them and say, this is what we want. And I guarantee you, if you say, oh, by the way, I'll buy hundreds of them, and so will my other 1,000 colleagues, you want to bet it won't get made? Guarantee it will. I think this one was supposed to be up a few. But it's still the same principle that we don't have to feel like we are always reactive to a product and to what a manufacturer wants to bring us. We have that power to be proactive, which is why myself and BC out of Vanderbilt started the Higher Ed Technology Managers Alliance, which you can go to hetma.org. And we are going to, that we're just launching, and we're starting to do it. It's funny because there was a thing up there about staffing, a question when I walked in the room, and we're actually doing a staffing survey, to kind of see exactly how everybody does things in the scope. But the whole purpose of this organization is to have our voice. If you go back, my number one podcast was Mark and Chris, and we're talking about the launch of this organization. And they're now with different companies. They were with Barco at the time. And Chris says to me, how awesome is that I could have a focus group. If I could reach out to you and you could put 25 people together, sign NDAs, give them all some product, have them do a real proof of concept, give us back all that information, and get it to the factory pre-launch, while we're still in the design phase. I mean, that's what brings us as tech managers the products we want. And trust me, as manufacturers, they want to deliver products we'll buy. So that's really the whole point of this organization, is to capitalize on the power that we have. Because we have it. And there's tangible proof at my institution right now in a number of rooms of some really cool stuff that's coming out. And we're getting an opportunity to have a voice on. So, my last one, Gina. So, I don't know if it's approved yet, but Gina and I are going to be doing a session together at CCUMC, hopefully on that. Who's familiar with AV as a service? Okay. AV as a service is this. That's why, by the way, I said that at PSNI. So if you get a chance, PSNI is a global organization of integrators, and they invited myself and a few other end users to a panel in Atlanta, and they asked us a question, and they said, what do you think about AV as a service? And I said, AV as a service must die, to which case someone tweeted at me that I am a condescending jerk for entering a room of integrators and telling them that what they want to sell must die. But here's why it must die, and you have to be careful of this. What AV as a service is, I can't tell you because neither they can't tell me what it is. I wish I could tell you, but here's the principle. The principle is you're leasing your equipment. Rather than buying it as a capital expense, you're moving it to an operating expense, right? So you're kind of taking it over time. How many of you could do that at your institution? You can? Oh, you could. You couldn't, right? Because how would we get our things? It's a capital expense. We say, I want to do a floor, I want to do a building. They write off a dollar amount to do that, and they say, now don't talk to me about this building for 6 more months. So AV as a service must die is actually episodes 1, and then I talk about it with Scott Tyner, and I talk about it on Gina's episode just a little bit. And we talk about this because it's not how I work. And what they want to then do is they want to work out that pricing so that you're really leasing the equipment. And then what happens is you're now stuck in a monthly payment or the trucks roll in. How you like that one? Because we all get our funding based on enrollment. So what happens when enrollment dies? Because even our growth that we're seeing right now, I'm not stupid. It's going to die. It's going to level out at some point. Which also means all this money they're throwing at me is going to, they've been really nice to upgrade all of our rooms, but I guarantee you, I can't go to them and say, oh, remember that classroom you just did 2 years ago? I want to put something else in now. Oh, or even better, I want to have an integrator charge us a lease on it. Can I take all this out? Just so that, and when they say they're going to keep bringing you new equipment, they're going to charge you more for the new equipment. So that is my last, so check out those episodes if you want to hear more about AV as a service. It's coming at you, and your integrators are going to sell it to you, and you need to start looking at the way they're pricing their service agreements, because this is going to sneak in there. And they're doing it as an entire industry. So that was my last point. So moving there, I'm going to do a couple of predictions, 3 predictions of our industry in the next 5 years. First prediction. So that we can add that slide in. So yeah, sadly, AV as a service is not going to die. They're going big on it. And basically, a better way of them selling AV as a service is if they did it as a platform as a service. And the way it works, and now here's how it does work. It works when we stop putting in black boxes. Sorry, manufacturers. When we're done with black boxes and everything is this is my own moniker. I created this. This is my prediction for 5 years from now. We will no longer be putting black boxes. We're going to have software-defined content and control. And I put the P. Protocol? Are we going to finally agree on what it is? The thing is, we're already doing it, right? Crestron's NVX is kind of a control system / content thing. Dante AV is kind of saying they're going to do it. We do have Utelegy and a number of, Barco's Overture is a control cloud-based, software-defined, but we don't have them all together. And that's going to be my prediction in 5 years, is that we start to move to where things either have nodes built in them or it's a transmitter receiver that is then can be configured with the software in it to be able to take that information. We already do it. Your Netflix account is a software-defined content delivery system. we can move that into AV, and I believe that's the direction it's going to go, and it's the way it has to go as our content becomes more important. So that's my other prediction. And then my last one is that everything is a canvas. And this is one thing I've noticed over the podcast. And I'm just going to keep pointing out the Alexa room because you're sitting here. But we all know about the flipped classroom thing, right? Well, flipped classroom is now going away, right? Because here's the problem with a flipped classroom. Teachers don't know how to use it, right? We all know that. We put in 6 screens, and they're still teaching up front. Next generation, that won't happen because they're going to stop seeing a front. They're not going to want a front. They're going to want everything to be in front of them. So our delivery systems, the only way we can do that, we're not talking about 6 screen rooms. We're going to talk about 60 screen rooms. We're going to talk about everything we delivered on their laptop, on their tablet, on their phone, projected down onto the table, VR. I was against VR. If you listen to the first few episodes, I thought, oh, VR is stupid. AR is great, though, because you can overlay things over things and learn. I changed my opinion on that. I think VR is going to be very big. And I think it's going to take over the classroom experience in a lot of disciplines, not just the ones that we think of, like computer science or nursing. I think this could even go into the humanities. When I was talking about our virtual hybrid that we're delivering, and this is why I said this, our music program is doing a worship arts program, and what they want to do is they're going to teach a class on church aesthetics, and they want to put them right in the Sistine Chapel. I mean, what better way to learn that? Right? We don't have to send them there. We can bring it to us with the right technologies. And so that's what we're going to start to see over the next 5 years. And I got that off of what a lot of things are doing, right? At Oregon State with the classroom in the round. These are changing, and as the next group of faculty come up who are now used to doing these things. It's funny because how many people have kids who are teenagers? Kids that are teenagers in the room? Do we get mad when they're looking at their phones all next to one another? Like they're texting one another, right, across the table, like what's going on? But here's the thing. That's how they communicate now. We have to stop looking at that as going, well, quit. Just talk, put it down and talk to the person in front of you. No, it's their security blanket. It's part of them. It's part of their identity. It's their language. And that language is going to come into our classrooms when they start becoming faculty. And they're going to want to use that because that's how they know how to reach people. They're not going to teach in the same way. So that I've learned, and I've noticed a lot of schools are already getting ready for that. We just maybe don't recognize it yet. But we're already there, and that was pretty awesome. So, wrong way. That's, there we go. So the solution isn't a thing, it's a why, right? It's why do you want to do this? Why do we want to interact? What do you want out of it? It's our learning is changing. It used to be that we delivered pieces of information. Now we want them, and your faculty and your teaching and learning departments want the immersive experiences. That just means we want to bring the outside to them here. And we're already all doing that in our nursing programs and things like that. So that's it. Here's what we're going to do, just so you know. Today, I'm going to do a live record. I'll do a recording of the podcast today. We're all meeting. I don't have the time. We're meeting at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, we're going to be bailing out of here by 4. So you want to do your live podcast?
We'll do it at casino night. I'm going to set it up. Here's what you're going to do. I'm going to do about 30 minutes. If people want to come on, I want to hear a couple things. So when I do a podcast, everybody gets the same first question. I end with a rapid round. I know it's cheesy, but I think it's fine. But everyone gets the same first question. What's your favorite college tradition? So you have to give me that. And then if I could, I would. I want to know from you, out of everything I said, if you could change something in what we do, what would it be? What direction you think things are going and all that. So maybe I'll just do about 30 minutes, jump up to the mic, and we'll do a record. I'll just do it on my phone, and I'll throw that out as a little bonus content. So that's that. And that's me. I probably just went on forever, and it's probably time to not have questions, or are there questions, or did I already go into the next session?
I think we can kill our break. We could shorten our break between sessions a few minutes, from 15 to maybe 5. If we want to wrap with Joe for a few more minutes, it's up to the group. But yeah, I'm open to listen. Anyone? Questions?
Yep. That's you.
You had mentioned a website that you created following from Vanderbilt.
Yeah, HETMA.org. HETMA.org. Higher Education Technology Managers Alliance. And again, I'm around all night, and I'm here through tomorrow. This has been fun. If you want to be on the podcast, I already had Rob Hyde in the UK tweeted me, he's like, what's this all about? I'm like, yeah, we'll talk about what it's about. Come on the podcast. So if you want to come on, I'm happy to have everyone as a guest. So thank you all very much.